Call to order the Wednesday, August 6th meeting of the Middleton Affordable Housing Trust. It is 6:05 PM. A reminder for those that are in the room, as those that are online, this meeting is being recorded. I know that we have a couple of housekeeping issues that we'll move through very quickly, and then we have some consultants here that, both here and remotely, that will be a part of the meeting. So first is the annual election of our officers, which includes chairperson, vice chairperson, treasurer, and clerk. So I would entertain motions from the members for the position of chair.
Could I ask you, Brian, if I were to make a motion to nominate you, would you be interested in moving forward once again?
Yeah, I will.
Before I make the motion, I figured I'd ask you to know what your thoughts were on the matter for your coming year.
If nominated, I will serve.
Then I will nominate you as chair.
Okay, there's a nomination. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a nomination and second. Any further nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Thank you. Nominations for vice chair. Usually chair people don't nominate, but I will nominate. Are you willing to continue to serve as vice chair?
Yes, I will, thank you.
I will nominate you as vice chair. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, there is a nomination and a second. Any further nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, if any? Richard, you willing to continue to be our treasurer?
Absolutely. I'll make a motion that Richard retains treasurer.
Okay, there has been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there has been a motion, a second. Any further nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, if any? That sounds unanimous to me. So it sounds like we have one more position left. You willing to continue to serve as our clerk?
Absolutely.
Clerk extraordinaire.
I'll make a motion for Herman to continue on as the clerk.
Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There is a second. There's multiple seconds.
We're all in good agreement.
Any further nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, if any? That sounds unanimous as well. Thank you, everybody, for your willingness to serve again. And thank you, Maria, at the previous meeting that I was unable to be at, for moving this to this agenda. I appreciate
It was
that.
important to have everybody here.
Okay, we have minutes that are draft from our Wednesday, July 10th meeting. I don't know if there are any comments or questions, or if we received any comments or questions from board members that may not be here that provided any.
I had a question.
Sure.
If I could ask.
Yeah, the cash
Rick,
balance.
the cash balance.
I think the cash balance number
is
was
off.
incorrect.
On page 2, it says treasurer's update April through April, 32,983. I think there's a digit missing.
That doesn't appear to be quite right.
No, I think there's
we're
an
missing a
extra
digit,
digit.
So that should be
102,982.62.
302,
2.
983.
983.
So we'll edit those minutes to
Okay,
reflect
so
that correction.
there's an edit to the treasurer's update. It was just a Scribner's error. It looks like the 0 was missing while the typing was occurring. Any other comments on the minutes? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the July 10th minutes.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, there is a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any? Okay. Anna, can you set us off on some update and discussion on our zoning review project timeline and feedback?
For sure. So I think I mentioned this maybe at an earlier meeting, but one of the things on the planning department radar this year is to do a kind of comprehensive look at the zoning bylaws. Obviously, that's sort of a big project, and while we don't intend to be making major changes to the map or updates like that, there's a lot of technical pieces that I think are relevant for affordable housing. So I wanted to bring, we have a consultant team supporting this project. I'll let them introduce themselves in a minute, but I wanted to bring them here tonight as kind of an introductory, give kind of everyone a lay of the land, where the project's going, and also have some time on the earlier side to go over some of the Affordable Housing Trust priorities, because I think some of them will be relevant for the project. A couple that I wanted to flag, I do think some inclusionary zoning discussion might be worth our time tonight, talking a little bit about the two-family, how we permit two families, and also talking about the development review process. Those are kind of some of the things that I wanted to tee up, but this will be an open conversation, so whatever is coming to light, we can talk through. So with that, I think, do you all want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Hi, I'm Amy Plovnick. I'm an urban planner with VHB. On the line here we have Luke Mitchell. Do you want
It's on mute.
He's muted.
I think you're on mute.
Oh, I might have it might be this.
Hold on one second, it may be our volume. Oh, hey, buddy.
That was cute.
If you want to keep going, Amy,
Yeah,
I'll work on
fine.
this. I'll work on this. Luke, we can't hear you right now.
some audio?
I think it's my end.
He's coming.
Yeah, so like Anna said tonight.
Actually, would it be helpful for us to introduce ourselves?
Sure, that'd be great.
Sure, I'll start. Brian Crest, I'm the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. I'm actually sitting on this committee as a member of the Select Board, where I also serve presently as the chair of the Select Board.
I'm Maria Pecos Hansis. I serve on this board as I'm elected official on the Housing Authority Board.
I'm Jason Bernhard. I'm representing the Middleton Planning Board.
I'm Herman Lehman Creaky. I'm the Affordable Housing Trust Clerk.
And Richard Gregorio, I serve as a member of the Finance Committee.
Great, nice to
And
meet you
then
all.
we have two additional members that are not, no, three members that aren't here this evening.
Tom and Beth.
Tom, no,
Sorry,
True,
I
Tom
can't
and
count
I.
well, sorry. That's why he's the treasurer and I'm not the treasurer.
There you go.
We have two other members that are not here this evening that represent citizenship at large and not representing a committee or board member.
Okay, great. Nice to meet you all. So, yeah, like Anna said, we wanted to provide an overview of the work that we've been doing on looking at Middleton zoning code, and then get some initial input from you all about what's working well, what you'd like to see changed, and hopefully we'll be able to incorporate that feedback into our project. So, Anna, if you're able to pull up the slides, and Luke, I don't know if we've figured out the audio yet.
I think we may have. You want to?
Testing,
Yep.
1, 2,
We
3.
got you.
Here you are.
Got it. Yep.
Can you hear us?
Hello.
We can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
What was his name again?
Luke Mitchell.
Thank you.
So Luke, I have the slides up on my side. Did you want me to share those in the virtual meeting as well?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, if you could, that would be great. But if it's harder, then if it's too much work, no worries. I can follow along either way.
Yeah, I think I can.
If it's more trouble than it's worth, no worries. Just go ahead. I have it open on my end, too.
Okay, I'll go ahead and put it up on just on the screen here.
Yep, that's fine.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Anna. So, yeah, if you don't mind going to the next slide. So, in terms of what we're working on with this project, we'll be conducting, as we mentioned, a review of the zoning bylaw to identify how well it works, whether it's meeting the town's goals and needs, and also identify outdated and inconsistent provisions in the zoning code and any regulatory barriers that you all are finding. So our first step for this is we're doing a zoning audit, so reviewing materials that the town's provided, previous efforts to look at the zoning code, talking with folks like you all and other stakeholders in town, and kind of going line by line through the zoning code and identifying what might need to be updated. And we'll be packaging that all into a report that we'll be sharing with the town. And then ultimately, the goal is to do a zoning rewrite, so make actual updates to the zoning bylaw as a result of the zoning audit. And we'll be doing stakeholder engagement throughout the process. So our team met with town staff, with developers who work in town, and then meeting with you all, have some meetings later in August with the planning board and the ZBA as well. So hopefully we get good input from folks along the way of what you'd like to see changed in the zoning code. So if you can go to the next
When
slide.
do we, thank you, you're ahead of me. I was going to say, when do you expect to get to stage 3? But
Perfect. Yep. So we're aiming to wrap up the initial zoning audit phase in September, and then rewrite the bylaw or do the draft zoning bylaw update in the fall, late fall and winter.
And our hope, Anna, is this is coming to May annual town meeting.
Yes.
And so normally, if this is at the end of February, that gives the planning board.
Yeah, the planning board hearing would happen February and March.
Good, thanks.
Yep.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Because I'm not sure, don't understand the makeup of this. Is this, you are consultants from a private firm?
Yes.
From the state? Just, I didn't hear the introduction.
From a private firm that the town contracted with.
Okay, no connection to the state or federal?
So they, as part of our last May town meeting, there was, as part of, I think it was a separate warrant article, or was it within our capital plan? I can't remember now.
Yeah, I think it's capital.
Yeah, capital plan, we included the funding for utilization of this consultant. No, I think the last time we did a comprehensive, we had a consultant that supported us as well. It's a very common occurrence.
Okay, just wondering if it's like, representing the state?
No,
and
it's
doing
not, it's
certain
not,
things?
yeah,
Is
it's
it-
not like a grant, no, this was funded by town meeting, and
Okay.
this is what they do.
I like that better.
Yeah, so if you can go to the next slide. So I know many of you are familiar with all these details of what's in the zoning bylaw, but just to get us all on the same page in terms of what we're looking at, there's 10 sections in the zoning bylaw. The first one is just going through, the overall purpose. Section 2 looks at the different districts in town, and it includes the zoning map of, which districts are where. Section 3 has use regulation, so what is allowed in each district. Are you allowed to do commercial, or what residential uses are allowed? And then Section 4 is the dimensional requirement, so looking at things like setbacks and minimum lot sizes. And then the next couple sections have different types of regulations. So Section 5 is on general regulations, including things like parking and loading and landscaping. And then there's some special regulations for different types of districts, like residential and special districts. Section 9 on administration and procedures is going to be a big focus of looking at, when is a special permit required and who grants that, and are there things that can be improved with the process. And then there's a section on definitions. So just quickly on the next slide.
So
Yeah.
could I ask, with both the state ADU law and what town meeting here passed last year, now I know some of it is, we have to go back with some revisions due to the AG's review, which is just about every town that did something on ADUs. Will that be built into this?
Yeah.
Even if, so we're, reason why I'm asking this is, I know we're gonna probably at the next town meeting clarify some of the sections that the Attorney General's office has called out. And what I understand, it's not just us, it's just about every city in town that did something in an ADU. So will the draft be based on what remains in our ADU change and then recommendations for additional changes, or are you just kind of cleaning this up?
Yeah, if you, actually, we do have a slide if you
Sorry,
go
I know
down a
I'm
couple.
going ahead, but.
That's okay. We can just jump down, yeah, this one right here. So, yeah, my understanding is that there's 2 pending zoning
Yes,
updates,
the floodplain
ADU
overlay.
and the floodplain. So you know, I wasn't aware of like the details of the AG coming back, so we might need to follow up with Anna and just get some of that information. But I think generally, given that, you know, these are recent
Yeah.
updates, like that's not going to be a focus of our review. We're kind of just.
I
gonna
just wanted to
assume-
make sure that
Yeah.
when the final draft comes back, that it was based on where we are with the AG.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think we'll just assume that, you know, consider this part of the zoning code essentially.
Promise I'll be quiet now.
No, please, please jump in, that's great. Yeah, I think we can keep going to the next slide, so just in terms of.
I would just, if I could jump,
yeah.
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, and also, you know, we're going to be preparing a zoning audit report, as Amy may have mentioned. So maybe what we can do in that report is just, we can have a write-up of that, just to be clear, so that anybody just, you know, encountering our work for the first time, we can say, this is what the town is doing to you know, in response to the AG's requirements or whatever. And then we can talk about anything additional that would be separate to that. My point is, we'll be clear on what's part of that effort that you mentioned, and then anything that's separate from that.
Okay.
Just trying to be clear on that. Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, yeah, so in terms of what we're focusing on, like Anna said, we're not doing like a major overhaul to things like the zoning map or the overall uses that are allowed. This is really just trying to clean up and streamline the zoning code and make it more aligned with, you know, similar communities. For example, in reviewing it so far, there's some areas where there's not very much detail. There's others where there's things that kind of too much detail, or the requirements are too stringent and make it so that it's really not enforceable. So looking for things like that, looking to clean it up in that way, and then
Could you give
improve
an
the
example?
administration and procedures to make it work better.
Could you give an example, and maybe not
Mhm.
on our zoning bylaw right now, because maybe you're not deep enough through it, but an example of an area where it's too detailed and making it
Mhm.
difficult to enforce?
Yeah, I know that we've gotten some comments so far on like the signage requirements in the Middleton zoning code, that there's things that are saying, you know, there's a lot of rules, and there's some things that you have it in there, but maybe it's not actually being
Hasn't
enforced.
historically been enforced.
Yeah, so something like that would
Okay.
be one example, but there may be others,
That's
Anna
good.
might have
Thank you.
others as well.
Another one that comes up often is our definition of restaurant in the zoning code is very, very specific down to like how the dining room is set up almost. And so that's one of the things that it's pretty hard to enforce.
Got it.
Yeah, and then like I mentioned before, I think looking also at the administration and procedures, so who's granting the special permits, who's in charge of the site plan review, are there things that can be sort of streamlined in that to make it work better for everyone and make the process go more smoothly? And then just trying to also just clean up things like duplication. There's some provisions that are out of date and have like this will end by a certain date, and that date has passed. So just trying to make it a little bit more clear for the people who will be using it.
Okay, good.
So that's kind of the overview of the project. Luke, I don't know if you had anything to add, or Anna, or if folks have other questions.
Nothing to add here.
Quick question,
Yeah.
Nick. I'm sorry if this gets into zoning too much. Is there an analysis being done of the permits that have been rejected? To say why have been rejected, and do they fall into like it's too strict or it's too vague? And then come back and say, look, you've had maybe 50 rejections in the past, but with these easings, you know, maybe those might be back on the table. Is that part of your analysis, or?
If I could I jump in and say, yeah, that sounds great. Is that some data, some information that y'all can provide? I don't know, Anna, if you could coordinate, but yes, that would be helpful to look at.
Yeah.
We'll also be meeting with the planning board and the ZBA later this month, so they might have more of that anecdotal feedback
Sure.
as well.
And I'd say, in that vein, what I'd be most interested, this board doesn't have control over any of that, but I'm more interested in understanding as it relates to the Affordable Housing Trust. Are there are there items within your review, specifically to the comment of things that are either too detailed or not detailed enough that are making it difficult for either a successful defense or even a successful ability for an individual or homeowner to want to, or a commercial project to go forward? And I'm more interested specifically around opportunities around, obviously what we're here for tonight is affordable housing, but I mean, prior to the ADU law, for example, I would say our process around so-called in-law apartments, which I know that's not the term, but that's what we all kind of think of, has not been very easy in this town. Now, I think the ADU law is going to obviously change some of that, but I'd be more interested in knowing about some of the things around zoning that maybe rejections that might have been, or in your review of this, language that make it less easy or optimal to bring in affordability components. And I know in a few moments we'll dive into some ideas that this board has specific about affordability components, but I think if we're going to look at, if there is data, and there may not even be data available, but if there is data, if we could look at as it relates to housing, accessory, and opportunities like that. Or, I mean, we've had projects that have come here in the past, most of them 55 and older, that have had a component as part of the ZBA approval that have allowed affordable units. For example, one in Cranberry, we just, my board last night it made a decision to pass over because that unit is being sold and it'll be transferred again to a new owner in an affordable capacity. But I just don't know if we have data and we're doing a review, if we could look at it specifically around those topics. I mean, I think the planning board and ZBA would probably want to see other things and things that we may be interested in.
Yep, we can definitely look at that more.
Okay.
Jason might have a comment.
Jason?
That stuff with
No,
being
it's,
on planning board.
That'd be something that we could look at. We've had some people come in, they want to do, we've already had, what's it, we've had 2 or 3 people come for ADUs already in town. And, the way they are trying to make it, it's almost like not an ADU, and you're like, all right, well, no, you can't do it that way. So there's been certain areas that way that, excuse me, on the zoning that we've been trying to figure out on the planning board of, okay, well, does it meet all the requirements? But if it's just one small requirement, but it's, like there's one that's on Boston Street, 62. Scava just built that big house.
Yeah.
He's putting a big ADU off the back towards a pool, and then he's moving some stuff around, and he's taking down a big building out back and stuff like that. He's doing what is required, he's making it the way it's supposed to be. There's some people that are trying to be like, well, it's only a couple extra feet, can we do it? No, you can't, because zoning doesn't require it. So there's certain things that are going to come up in this that people are going to have like, well, it's only a couple of feet. Well, then go to the proper process of get a special permit, and the whole 9 yards, and see if it's relevant and stuff like that. So that's other things that are going to come up on our side on the end of planning
Definitely on
and
the planning
zoning.
board side.
Absolutely.
So will the planning board be involved in all of this too?
Oh, yeah.
Are they going to be
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
meeting with you guys, or they already have, or this?
No, they're going to be meeting. They're going to be meeting with us next
Oh,
week.
next week, okay.
And then the
Figure it out.
final,
We've got a duplicate presentation. We'll talk
so the
about
That's
final,
okay.
so the final draft that will be proposed to the town, and then whatever is provided, it's likely going to be the planning board that will carry that through the town meeting process.
Correct.
So you'll have your hearing and all of that. So
Yep.
you'll be involved in the drafting, and then it'll be your document.
It'll be our document
To town
for
meeting.
town
So
meeting.
we're looking, are we the first to look at it, or like, what is each board?
So, select board actually
Pertinent
doesn't
boards?
have, we'll probably take a position on it at town meeting, but
Mm-hmm.
this is, through the review process, it's planning board, ZBA, and the town planner that are going to be actively involved. We're being, this evening, really to provide input of things that we, around affordability and some of the
That we
priorities we
that
have.
we want them to
But
put-
the actual activity that will actually bring this to town meeting will be through
Will
the
be
planning board.
Planning board and ZBA.
Not
too.
planning board.
Yeah, just planning.
Just planning board.
Oh, because you mentioned ZBA.
Yeah, it'll be
ZBA is
it'll-
part of the review process.
ZBA is part of the
Oh,
review,
okay.
and then ZBA and select board, if they say, oh, we have a positive recommendation, then
Yeah.
that would be something that
That
would
helps
come
in a
through the
sense,
town
yeah.
process,
Gotcha.
the town meeting process.
Okay, thank you.
So we have some kind of general discussion questions, but we can also just open it up to some of the priorities you have, and some of the things that Anna had raised at the beginning of wanting to talk through. But curious to hear from you all if there's things in the zoning bylaw that you have seen through your role on the Affordable Housing Trust that are challenging, that are difficult to interpret, or just recurring issues or questions that are coming up related to the zoning code as sort of maybe barriers to housing or affordable housing.
So, I'll bring one up. Now, I'm not sure if it's due to our zoning or it's due to how the ZBA has approved. But, for example, I mentioned we have 4 different condo complexes in town that when they were built with a certain unit set aside for affordability. And these are not rentals, these are ownership. 3 of them are 55 and older, 1 of them is not. So Cranberry, Cobblestone, Riverview are the 3 that are 55 and older. And then the one off of Maple Street, 62, I can never remember the name of it, the condos.
That's the one that's down low?
Yeah, they're green, they're not far from
Yeah,
They're right
the church.
behind the old town hall.
Yeah, right behind the old town hall.
The senior center now, they're right
No, I
behind.
know,
So-
Yeah, Maple Street condominium.
Yes, yeah, the Maple Street
Maple
condos,
Street
I
condominiums.
can't remember the street that they're on, but all 4 of those have set-asides. Now, I don't know if this is ZBA, you may know this from the work that you do, but, for example, before my board last night was a property that is being sold, and the process is, it goes through, I was gonna say EOCD, goes through Executive Office of Housing and
HLC.
Community Living, yeah.
Yep.
It'll always be EHCD or DHCD to me. They manage the process through what could be a lottery, but it's my understanding that it has to be somebody that has not owned a property in the last 3 to 5 years, and obviously certain income restrictions. I don't know if that is zoning or process through the state, or if that's something that's happened through the ZBA.
Yeah. So I can just speak to that quickly. That is a state process through one of the state affordable housing
Okay.
regulations, and there is typically the home ownership requirement is not for 55 and plus age restricted. So typically, being a first-time homeowner is relevant for most affordable
No, I
units,
get,
but
but
the
I was told on the
restriction is-
Cranberry Commons property that they could not own a property for the last 3 to 5 years. The only reason why I bring that up, so as we talk about priorities of this board, one of the big priorities is providing affordable options for those individuals that are aging in place in this town. It's not an inexpensive town to live in, and it's gotten more difficult, and for a lot of folks, it's, to downsize means having to leave, or to continue to live in the town means having to leave because there's not any other options. Secondly, priority around, I call it the younger generations that have grown up in this town and then don't have an ability to stay here. We have a limited amount of rental units in this town. We do have some fairly decent number of condos. A lot of them are 55 and older, but not all. Those 2 populations, both those that are aging in place or looking to continue to remain in the community, and those that maybe have raised and looking to become a first-time home buyer or even a renter, it's not very successful in this town. So I'd really like to see, as you are reviewing the bylaws, we've talked about things such as new developments. Now, we have not seen a lot of new developments in the last couple of years. I would say in the last 25 years, there's not many towns around us that has seen as much new development as we had. At one point in the late 90s, we were the fastest school-age growth population in the state. all new single-family developments, a few condos, but mostly single-family. This board has started to talk about what it would look like in a zoning requirement to state that future developments have to have a certain set-aside, including single-family developments, multifamily developments, overlay districts, and others. You know, and I think that's one tool we've been thinking about. Now, we have also talked about that could either include a set-aside or some type of investment in lieu of that is provided to the Affordable Housing Trust that could be utilized for other type of affordable opportunities within the town. I think that's a little bit more difficult to manage. I'd rather have a conversation around some set of requirements around, you know, you're putting in a 24-unit development, X number should be some level of affordability. Jackie's not here to hear me say this, but it's the big A or the small A affordability. And I think those are probably two of the top items that we've had some discussions around. Secondly, I'd say over the last 25-plus years, what has been built here are very large homes and very large developments. Years back, the town made a determination around lot size, 1 acre, and then a section of the town that's more than 1 acre. Some of that was implemented by former town fathers and mothers and town meeting to have a slowing effect on growth. I actually think it didn't have any effect on growth. I think what it did is it put us in a position where we don't have a mix of housing right now. And so I think this board has talked and had some folks jump into, had some interest in areas, you know, entertaining areas such as cluster zoning. You know, there's you won't know what I mean when I say this, but there's a development in town that's right near us, like right behind us, Brigadoon, that was built 40 years ago.
40-plus years
40-plus
ago,
years ago, which were smaller lots, smaller homes, that really brought a lot of growth into Middleton, but a growth with families and folks that could afford. You know, and we've looked at, are there opportunities to do in some of the areas of town that have not been built out or overlay? Village zoning as well, that would allow opportunities to bring in a little bit denser, but not dense where everybody gets their hackles up that, you know, 200 units in a 5-story building, but denser that, you know, still allows for appropriate green space, but allows for an affordability mix that will work for a developer, but also work for the buyer. So those are some of the, at least for me, some of the topics I think this committee's talked about. I don't know if folks have other items on what you've seen on the planning board or.
If I could follow up with a question, you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the question, I would just love to double click on that, what you just said about the village zoning and whether that's working, whatever's been put in place. Is it designed the way it should be? Should it be changed, or is it sufficient? Like, I'd be curious to hear a little bit more about the village zoning.
So we don't, if I'm correct, I think on paper we may have a village zoning, but I don't think it's really around where, off of Maple Street, correct?
Yeah, and there's a small section off of North Main.
North Main,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, North Main is a whole nother story, where I think as a town, we've almost missed the boat on it, on doing some zoning changes up there. It was an opportunity for that area, I think, to kind of be revitalized and used in a different way. That we've probably missed a lot of the, it's not completely missed in terms of timing, but a lot of it has been. But I think the village zoning around Maple Street, and if just for folks here and at home, when I say around Maple Street, I think it's really around, just to give a landmark, it's where Farmer Brown's is, if I'm correct, and that area around Farmer Brown's, both there and behind an area of East Street where it comes into Maple. So we haven't had a lot of success there. Now, what you've probably determined in the work that you've done already or starting to do. I mean, we have a lot of chapter land here, farmland, that I don't know if it'll be in our lifetime or not, but I think at some point, there may be changes that happen there, and I think we need to give some thought about where those big chunks of open space are, what we envision that looks like in terms of affordability components. And, you know, I see opportunities for both village and more denser, again, not to get everybody's hackles up, but when I say denser, an ability to not have to build a 5,000 square foot home, 5 bedrooms with 2 people.
And one of the things, just to follow up on that, you know, with these zoning codes, we're not like totally reinventing the wheel from scratch. So we're trying to look to other communities nearby that have, you know, that are somewhat similar to Middleton. So if there's towns that you all can think of that, you know, you can think of a particular area or.
Wenham is a
Wenham.
town that I think of that has done, in my limited study and knowledge, I think has done a good job of, you know, having a lot of open space, but wanting to keep the character of the town. That's something I hear all the time, both in social media and from folks one-on-one and others, keeping the character of the town, but also being able to do something around affordability. Now, they were ahead of the curve on Affordable Housing Trust and efforts there. You know, that's one of the towns that, off the top of my head, that comes up. Secondly, I think about in Boxford, I think it's Boxford.
Boxford's the village.
Yes, the what's it called?
I think it is called Boxford Village.
Yeah, Boxford Village, which,
Boxford Village.
which was a development. Now, they've had some significant problems with water there, but that's that was more of a development issue than a zoning issue, where these are smaller buildings, more cluster developed with green space, both in common and around, hiking trails and so forth, that
Very
has
nice
absolutely had a huge opportunty for individuals to be able to move into Boxford.
Okay.
And
That's
it's
really
done
helpful.
very
Thank you.
well.
Yeah, it is
The
done very well.
design is very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I used to live in Boxford. I used to, a couple of people I played softball with used to live down there. We used to go to their house. It's a nice, the way they set it
Yeah,
up. It's
they
not,
really did
you
a
know,
nice job.
yeah, did a very nice job down there.
And it doesn't look like it was a cluster, it just flows very
Yeah,
nicely.
it does.
Do other folks have thoughts about priorities or things you would want to see in this zoning rewrite?
It's a priority for me for a mix in the town of having a balanced tax base. So as you say about affordable housing, whenever there's a downturn in the economy, we need a stable base of taxpayers who are not going to move because they're underwater with a mortgage or, they're renting, that's fine. But for me, I would like to see a balance that should there be an economic decline, that the town doesn't suddenly suffer in terms of revenue, that they have to raise, taxes on everybody else because, some people are underwater with their mortgages, they leave the town, and we lose $10,000 a year in, real estate tax revenue. So by having more affordable housing, I think, in the town, it sort of not protects us from that, but it sort of limits the shock, right? Versus, because I've seen in 2008, a lot of towns go through some serious hardships because people with bigger houses up and leave, hand the keys back to the bank, and then those who remain have to make up the difference. So that's where my...
And I'd also say that the point when you say mix, it's probably the third reel to bring this up, but we have limited examples, but I think at one point, the town needs to have a conversation about mixed use. The right commercial development, but finding an opportunity to kind of mix that with, I've seen a lot of towns that are doing it right. Now, some of it is happening around 40B, and as you know, we're in the midst of a 40B project that's been approved, and we have another 40B that just has arrived at our door. It was just filed, I think, last week, Anna?
Yeah.
We're waiting to get the official notification from EOHLC, from the state. The clock will be ticking on that. We're going to be having some public hearings and others around that. But I think around mixed use, of finding, we have some office space in this town, even on the 114 corridor, including some retail space that is a struggle to keep filled. And is it an opportunity? I mean, I use the example, you've heard me talk about this building next to the fire station that has been vacant on and off for the last 15 to 20 years.
Yep.
Definitely.
Now, we have a septic issue that struggles with our ability to do certain things in town, but that's a perfect example of a building that I think could be utilized into a mixed use. And what do we have to do within our zoning to make that not so insurmountable, but not like an open door either?
Seems tight there, though, too
Yeah.
much. It's very tight.
It is. Would it be a big development? No. Would
No,
not be at
I
all.
mean, how many units would that be? 2, 3?
Yeah.
Max. And no retail on the bottom, just the residential?
No, retail bottom.
Retail on the
You'd still
bottom.
have the problem with the parking.
Well, I think,
Unless you took the house next door.
yeah, well, I think that's what I'm
It
talking
has to be the
about.
house next door.
But the houses
or
next
two.
door zoning would have to change, because the
Correct.
zoning for that building is different from the
Right.
homes next to it.
Still, it's so tight there. Very tight spot. That's why the retail never
Yeah.
worked.
So I think mixed use, I think set aside, I think village zoning, I think more cluster type zoning. And then I'd ask, like, if there's things that you guys are saying that towns like us, doesn't have to be a town near us, but a town like us that you've seen have done some innovation in their zoning that we should think about. I mean, I'm not looking for pride of ownership here. I'd rather look at what has worked, or be able to see what they've done and see if that would fit here. And it would be a lot easier when we step in the door at town meeting, because zoning changes are always a battle. Even a perfunctory cleanup of a zoning change is a battle in this town. It would be helpful to be able to say, well, here's an example, this is how it's worked, this is what the outcome has been. I will say, going through a 40B process in Middleton over the last year and a half to 2 years has at least gotten the town to have an honest discussion amongst itself, both the leadership and the public as a whole, to realize that we have an affordability problem in this town. Like, everybody has the problem right now. I think it's more acute in this town than it is in almost any town around us.
One thing I want to add to your comment there, looking at other towns, is this is one thing I'm interested in terms of the development review process. Right now, the Affordable Housing Trust is not included in any formal way in development review, but I do think there's an opportunity. This is something I heard from you, Brian.
Yeah, and we've actually talked about this. One of the things that we thought, at least in the initial stage, is that we would try to be like maybe not an uninvited voice, but a voice of recommendation that we can make. And I appreciate that, but not being at the table of part of a review process, this committee, many times we will enter the process way too late. I mean, we meet monthly. Yeah, we have a town planner. It's not like she only works with planning and ZBA. She works with us every single day. However, I think to have more of a formal involvement in the review process, and I don't know if it goes as far as, like, you must, especially, I mean, if there's going to be some type of requirement around affordability, this committee has to have a step in the process. But even if there isn't a requirement around affordability, I want a developer that's coming into this town to put in 20 house lots to understand that you've got to, like, this is the steps you have to go through, and one of them is you're going to have to talk with the Affordable Housing Committee to understand, and, there's things that developers can do that may not have to be mandated. So that's a really good point,
I
Anna.
know that I've seen things, I'm forgetting the exact instance of it, but sort of a consulting role, like you mentioned, like, it's the approver is the ZBA, but the planning board is consulted, or there's other boards that are consulted on certain things and providing input, so we can look into whether that,
And
where that could
we'd
come
have to
in.
change our process on how we meet, when we meet, like, not going to have a meeting waiting for something to come, but we're going to have to move quicker than, will it still be ripe next month when we meet again?
Amy, could I just ask you what kind of, a little bit something,
you-
oops, I'll let Luke.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Luke.
Luke is first.
Yeah, just one response to the comment about innovative practices from other communities. There's one thing that comes to mind. This package of revisions that'll be palatable to the voters, but I would say that some other towns include incentive zoning in their residential district, wherein developers can build to a greater density if they provide, various public amenities, such as a new park that can be used by the community, or some sort of improvement to the local road network, or traffic signals, or something like that. So it basically, you use density as a carrot to get the developers to do things that benefit the community. And sometimes that benefit is to include affordable housing. Like if such and such percentage of your units are affordable, then you can build, 3 more units than you would have otherwise, or whatever the case may be. So I think that's one interesting thing that should be explored. I don't know if it'll be in this, like I said, I don't know if it'll be in this submission to the town meeting, but we can certainly speak to it in our report and deliverables.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we've had a little bit of a history, and now both the planning board and the ZBA, I'll give one example of this where, any new developments, there'll be sidewalks in the development, but you must either provide sidewalks leading to the development or provide funds that will be put into a sidewalk fund. Now, that's not actually in our zoning bylaw, but it's now practice of the ZBA and the planning board. Now, not being in a zoning bylaw does give some wiggle room, but being in a zoning bylaw, and examples that you give right now of other requirements around infrastructure, at least sets the table so when a developer is looking to propose, they understand if I want this, these are certain things I must do. Like, if I'm coming in for a site plan review for a development, I know I'm putting sidewalks in the development, and oh, by the way, Middleton's willing to have sidewalks on one side of the road in that development, but I must bring sidewalks leading into the development or fund elsewhere in the community. I think the same thing around density of, we're willing to allow a denser development with certain provisions around affordability, or, as I said earlier, other items that can support affordability, maybe not in that development, but elsewhere in town. I mean, our hope is this affordable trust at some point in the not-too-distant future will be able to bring in partners to actually do some development where we can do things working with the town, the select board, and others around tax financing and other programs to actually spur development that specifically is focused towards affordability.
Did you have a
The
comment?
question I had is a little bit what Brian was starting to talk about. What towns are you currently looking at that you see similar to ours? If you could tell me what those towns are, I'd be interested. Brian mentioned Wenham. I don't know if it was already on your list or not, but if it's not, it's a good one to add.
Yeah.
What towns are you comparing to us to use?
So we've gotten some suggestions from the previous stakeholder engagement that we've done of looking at particular towns that do certain things well. So it's more like, I think it was, say Andover or North Andover that had good parking regulations. So we would look to that for the parking.
Okay.
Not necessarily one single town where we're going to sort of model
Maybe
their zoning
I'd like
code,
to hear
but-
what towns you looked at. That I think helps me understand how you work and what you're looking at.
We can
So-
definitely include that in the report. We're just sort of, right now, we've just been getting into
So you don't
what is in
have-
Middleton.
You don't have any
I think
idea.
another one was Reading. Reading,
Reading.
North Reading.
North Reading or
They
Reading?
have good. Well, one thing that came up is, I think it was Reading or North Reading, I look back at my notes, but apparently they have they have a very strong approach to parking regulations. That was one example.
But that's only parking.
Mansfield is another town that we looked at. They have really modern contemporary zoning. As I think Amy mentioned, Andover, but there's a few examples.
Mansfield is what he said? Yes, Mansfield.
So what I'd say, part of the stakeholder engagement that they're doing is this meeting tonight, specifically around affordability. So,
Just like to understand what towns they're looking at and see if they are comparable.
yeah, I
Just
think
understand
part of what,
their resources.
as much as I appreciate what you can say that you provide to us of items that you've seen, I think it's also incumbent upon us to say, you know, this is kind of what we're interested in, like, where, like, because you could come in and say, here's 15 towns that do things around affordability. We may look at it, and 14 of them are like, no, that's not where we want to be. We don't want to build, you know,
Well, that's what
a
I'm trying
7
to
or a 10 star.
understand.
No, I
By
understand, but I think
asking
we,
that question.
but I think we have to provide kind of the guidance to them.
No, I get that, but
Eh,
I'd like to know, like, what towns they're looking at, then that tells me what, kind of what you're saying, it butts to it.
Yeah, I mean, we're still in the early stages here, so we can
Okay.
definitely include a list of, you know, comparable or other zoning codes that we looked at as part of the report.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the approach, the way that I'm understanding it is really we're starting with our zoning code and we'll update our zoning code. And if there are other towns that are doing something really well that we have an interest in, we can look to that. But yeah, the intent is not to model off of other towns. The intent is to use what we have and make any minor tweaks that we feel are necessary for Middleton.
I mean, I also think it's important, I know we're getting into the role of what they're doing, and it's more planning board, but
Yep.
this isn't, like, we're not making wholesale comprehensive changes to the zoning in town. What they're doing is cleaning this up, modernizing it, looking at areas that are just not workable or could be better worked, and at the same time, making some recommendations around some areas like affordability, maybe it's parking, maybe it's, and a lot of this is, what are they hearing from the boards are the issues that we think we need to be focused on.
And a lot of things that, you know, like, stuff that's outdated, they're like, okay, why is this still in here? It shouldn't be here, you know, that's been changed years ago, you know, this is the new way they do it. You know, it's a lot of planning and on their end of going, all right, well, this is what you have in yours. We don't think you should have that. It should be worded this way, and it, you know, just makes it all easier for everybody to understand. And
At some point in the future, this board's gonna probably be making more of a comprehensive set of zoning recommendations that we will bring to the planning board, and then if they believe it's copacetic, will be brought to town meeting specifically around affordability.
Okay.
So I just don't want folks to think that when their work is done, we have a new zoning package around affordability. That's not the intent of the consulting agreement. It's obviously not the intent of what we're, because if, let's put it this way, if we're going to town meeting next May on a comprehensive package for zoning around affordability, like, we should have started this a while ago.
And you also don't want to, you know, I think there's a lot that's sort of straightforward and hopefully not too controversial, and you don't want to necessarily
Mix the two.
combine that with things that need more discussion.
Because the stuff that needs to get done won't get done because of the things that may be viewed as we've been down that road before.
Yeah, but we do want to include in our write-up, as I said, anything that we think would make sense for a later round of zoning changes. And by the way, the question on the set-asides or the inclusionary zoning, we're interested to hear more from you guys at some point about what that looks like. Is it 5, 10, 15%? You see a range. Usually the stronger the real estate market, the higher you can support. If it's not the strongest real estate market, you're not going to be able to put
Yeah,
on a
no,
50% affordable requirement. But
I agree.
But maybe it's more modest, 5 or 10%. So I think it would be interesting to have that, to continue that conversation over the coming month, so we can put a little bit of write-up into our report.
Yep, I agree.
The other piece to me is, we know there's a problem. Cleaning up and making things more modern, but not addressing the crux of the problem, leaves you with a problem. And it leaves you with a bigger problem, because if we don't address it and start to say, okay, what are the top 3 things that need to change in order to facilitate affordable housing, we're just pushing the can down the road, right? So better investment in terms of spending the money would be, what are the problems we have today, and what are the concrete changes we need to make to get us on the first rung towards affordability in Middleton. And then as we get to that point, then you say, okay, what's to get to the next level? But if all we're doing is just cleaning up, if we didn't have a problem, I agree. That's the strategy and that's the way forward. But we have a problem. How do we solve it? Should be part of the recommendations that come back. and then it's up to the various boards and eventually the town voting at town meeting to decide how they want to go next. But I think we should at least put forward something that says, here's the plan to move forward and go from there.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you on that. But I just will caution, and I'm not calling this baby steps, but zoning in Middleton is, if you remember, I think not last town meeting, the town meeting before, we almost came to your board with multiple pretty large, big audacious goals around zoning. And there was a purposeful decision made to kind of take a step back on that because I think it was too much too fast. I don't think there was an appetite for it at the time. And at that time, we weren't even talking about affordability. We were just talking about everything else. But there's also going to be competing goals here. I mean, the Affordable Housing Trust is going to be focused on certain areas, planning and others are going to be focused on parking issues and other issues. We will intersect on some of them, and we're going to have to find the right time for us to actually change the direction on affordability. But I'd also tell you, we're not going to do it overnight, and it's also just not going to be done by zoning. I think there's more of an opportunity for this board beyond the zoning to actually start finding ways to invest in projects that make sense with the right developers within the existing zoning confines that we have in town as well.
Does anyone else have feedback on sort of priorities or things that you want us
I
to?
just want to be mindful of your all's time because it's about 7. So I would say if there's any urgent pressing thoughts, we can get into it. But otherwise, I would say thank you to you all and really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all for the
Yeah, we look
input.
forward to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Great talking to you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
I was furiously typing notes, so we'll make sure to take all the feedback and
I appreciate
include
it.
it in our project.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next on the agenda is continuing on the 5-year working plan and more specifically follow-up from the last meeting, specifically around the home repair program. So I know, again, I wasn't at the last meeting, but I know in the minutes there was some further discussion around what the loan payback structure will look like and what would trigger forgiveness. I also know that there was some discussions around, I think, Herman, you were bringing up around energy
Efficiencies.
and efficiencies to, again, back to the component of what we're trying to do around the home repair program is around allowing people to continue to stay in town, age in place, and remain in the community. So, so let's start with a little bit of an update of where we are on contract and
Yep.
others for the management of the program.
Yep. So where we're at right now is we took care of the declaration of trust, which is great. So we're in a good position. I think the next step is to finalize the contract, and the only outstanding thing that we want to, have right is just that last portion of the lending. So I have that written as it's written now. If we are okay with it as it's written now, then we can.
And when you say the last portion is around the forgiveness process?
Yes. Yeah.
So what does it look like? I mean, again, I wasn't at the last meeting, I did look at the minutes, but I know there's been some discussion around certain size are probably just going to be forgiven. Second discussion was if it's sold within a certain period of time,
Payback.
either all or a portion will come back. And then if it's held for a portion of time, forgiveness would be granted.
Correct.
And are you looking for just a final, cutoff point of, at what number do we say it's a grant, not a loan?
Yeah, so we talked about 5,000 at the last meeting.
Yeah.
And so I think the group was comfortable with that as a limit.
I agree with that.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I have that. And so really the rest of it is just there's a stepwise approach that other communities have used so that it's not like you either have 0 years and you pay back the full loan, or you have 10 years and it's completely forgiven. So the stepwise approach just means there's a certain percentage every year.
Every year.
Yeah, I don't have it right in front of me.
Well, the example we
Yeah.
discussed was that no forgiveness after the first 5 years,
Yeah,
and then 2,000 starting in year 6 and increasing 2,000
up to year 10, which would be a full 10,000 forgiven.
Right.
on a 10,000 loan.
So year 6 is 2, 4, 6, 8, then 10. Okay. So you're looking for a final determination if
If we're comfortable with that,
I am.
okay.
I think
I
we
agree.
were.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, and what was the last item that you needed?
Then I think that so right now, I believe like the agreement would be with the Affordable Housing Trust. So then it would be helpful if the trust could agree for maybe one signer, so that when we do get to the signing process, I think that we can allow just
One signer for the agreement?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, one signature.
Yeah, it should be the chair.
Yeah.
Be the chair.
Should definitely be the
Okay.
chairperson.
Yeah, I would think the chair.
Yep.
It's all Brian's fault.
Brian signs away.
You can blame me for it.
Absolutely, I will.
Okay, so I will get that finalized, and we can work on signing it as well, like with Habitat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Around the issue of energy. So when Habitat came in, they did mention that they do a lot of work with,
Mass Save?
was it Mass Ave? There's another group I thought was out of Beverly.
I'm not remembering.
And they actually, what?
Action Inc.?
Action Inc., thank you very much, Action Inc. And they state, usually, if I remember correctly, what they told us is when they have energy issues, they literally just act like a middleman, and they, probably the wrong term, but broker it over to Action Inc. that manages it. So I think what we need to, and I agree with you, Herman, that I think energy issues are, and energy needs, specifically, I'm thinking water heater,
Windows, doors.
windows, doors, items like that, that could have an effect not just on life and safety, but also affordability. Now, I don't think Action Inc. does doors and windows, but I know they do
Hot water.
hot water, I think they do heating systems. Now, a heating system may be beyond this program. However, I would.
Insulation, right?
They do insulation,
That's the other one, yeah.
they do items like that. I think, they don't do what Mass Save does, which will come in and do assessments, and I'm not sure if Mass Save is even eligible here in Middleton, because we're a municipal light department, and what people don't realize is, everybody's like, oh, Mass Save is great, they come in for free. No, you pay a fee every single bill on your electric bill if you are with any of the big players, because that's the payment that they make to Mass Save. So
That's what
you
I-
actually do pay to get what you get. Now, there are some things that Meld does, but I think Action Inc. can support some of those items. We probably want to have that conversation with Action Inc., just to understand what they do, although at least if I'm clear, Habitat can actually manage that for us by, basically, it'll be part of the contract. I think we have to talk about what that looks like, because I will say, I mean, if we have somebody who's, wants to come to us because their boiler has died, we may be beyond the limits of what this home repair program is gonna be. However, do we have the ability to assist them in the process, maybe not pay for it? And what does that look like? So, I don't think we have to get to that in the agreement, if I'm correct, Anna, with
Yeah.
Habitat, but I think we just have to make sure that we have the ability, that they can actually manage that for us through Action Inc. or Mass Save or any other organization.
Yeah, and that's my understanding, is that's what they do. Yeah. The
Okay.
I guess the one note that made me think of is, right now, we have it set up as, they scope out the project and they approve the project. So we wouldn't be approving project scopes, like as they come in. We would just get, a summary of okay, this is a one that came in Middleton, this is what they did, but we wouldn't have, like, once we sign the agreement, if that's part of their role, then we don't play an active role in that.
So would it be the case of, we get a report for them that says, here's an invoice for $5,000 of this project we did? Or would this be, we have a project we've just approved, do you agree?
I think we would get the notice, but we wouldn't, like, the trust wouldn't have an active role in approving the project.
But we get notification, as Brian was saying.
Right,
about-
when it comes in, yes.
When it comes in.
But we wouldn't have to meet to approve it.
Yeah, I'm fine with not approving it, because we're gonna set the parameters
Yeah,
of what
exactly.
makes eligibility, and,
Yep.
and quite honestly, it may make it a little bit easier through the process to move more quickly. I mean, I can imagine, like, somebody's coming home from the hospital and they need updates.
Right,
We're not meeting for 3 weeks,
yeah.
but they're able to move much quicker. What I would say, I think it would be very helpful for us to have some notice of, you know, here's 3 requests we've gotten, here's 3 that we've just approved, in the early days of this, because, I mean, I hope if we build it, they come, but I'd like to see how it's being, you know, how effective it's being, and what the timeliness is of it.
I think that's important, definitely, that we all, we see this as a
Oh,
board,
yeah.
definitely the.
Again, I think we will get
reports,
that.
yeah.
I would say in the early days of this,
Yeah,
and that'll also help us figure out, as we look at more long-term investment in this, if, you know, we'll be at the CPC next year asking for dollars at town meeting, it would be nice to be able to say, you know, we got 5 requests, 4 were agreed and funded, and the 4 that were funded, we were able to turn around in 2 weeks, and, you know, here's what the outcome has been.
Yeah, results, it's good to see this.
I can make sure that's really clear in the agreement.
So we have at least I have another question in that when projects occur, how do we know they're zero-cost loan, or whether we turn it into a loan or it's forgivable from the time it starts? How do we maintain enforceability once the project has been completed? So, for example, if we say, okay, this is a, 0% loan, but then something happens, right? Who's responsible for making the change? Is it Habitat? Is it us?
So I'm assuming, but maybe I'm not assuming, so this is not going to be a lien against somebody's home, or it is?
I think it is.
It is a lien.
Yeah,
So the lien is going to have some clarity on that, and the lien will actually have some dates on it. It's going to say this $9,000 project that was done, or $10,000 project that was done at John Smith's home, expires on this date, and there's a schedule to it. But I think,
In the house,
I think-
the sale can't happen
Yeah.
until the lien is perfected.
exactly. But I think what you're also asking, Herman, without putting words in your mouth, is that you also want to know if this project is being approved, what does that look like in terms of, this is one that is just a straight grant, because
Correct.
it's $3,000. And what was the number we decided again?
Five.
Five.
Yes.
So it's a $3,000 project. This is a grant. There's no lien, there's no payback, but this is a $5,100 project. I also think it would be helpful to see what's coming in and how they're scoping it, because we may be artificially setting a limit that requires something to be paid back over 10 years when most of the projects are $5,200. You know, I'm just using that as an example.
I think we have to revisit it.
Yeah, I think we should revisit this at a certain period of time and
We're
see.
getting
We have some data points.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the reports regularly from
Yeah.
them, then we can discuss.
So-
And then, in that vein, you know, if we build this and a lot come, how is Habitat going to prioritize? We have a set amount of money. Let's just say they get 20 applications in month 1, and the 20 scope is beyond our budget. I don't know, that may never happen, but what is the priority? Like, is health and safety number 1? Is ability to remain in the home number 1, or is that number 2? And we may not be able to
yeah,
quantify that.
that's a good
but-
question.
I don't know if that's in there.
I know they prioritize time-wise based on health and safety, but I think what you're asking is a little different than that, and that's a conversation we can have. I can talk
And I
with
think
the
we can get to
manager
that
about that.
post-contract.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's really about understanding how they approach it.
Yeah.
You know, and there may be folks that come to this program through Habitat, not through the avenues within the town, Council on Aging, veterans, schools, anywhere. It may just, I mean, Habitat is known to do this. Okay.
There was, in this one, it does say here, screen applicants shall be including income assessment, assess home needed repairs, safety, health,
Yeah.
and code issues
But let's
Kind
say
of-
they get 20 applications that,
are on the same level? Same-
yeah, or they all like go through this process. This is what Habitat shall do, but what it doesn't say is how they.
Prioritize.
Yeah, how they prioritize.
Prioritize who gets what.
Maybe it's
Yeah,
in
and
there.
also if, for example, we really got a lot of applications that exceeded our budget too, and we would have to, like, turn down folks. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And that's,
May not turn them down per se, but in the first tranche, say, look, we've approved these, and then we'll keep you on a waiting list in case something happens, somebody sells their house, or something, major happens, right? Because we don't want to lose those folks and have them go through a whole application process. We
and
just
and
keep
maybe the
them on list.
prioritization is, it's a need, but it's not a urgent need.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the next step is, once everything is signed, sealed, delivered, and we have everything sorted, how do we advertise this to the town so people are aware of it, the right people are aware of it, and then Habitat handles, how do we put them in touch with Habitat?
So I think it's the usual channels that we've been talking about, website, social media, town's Facebook page, maybe
Senior newsletter.
senior center, the veterans agent. I think we should be talking with the schools. I think we should be talking with, as the fire chief and his staff are out doing these safe visits, I highly recommend we have some type of flyer, pamphlet. It can be something that
Yes.
we make or we have printed that.
Habitat gave us good samples to
Yeah,
go by.
and have left with, left when they're doing those visits. We have different programs in town already through different funds that the town manages and administers, that people have given to the town for gifts, that we support folks around gas, oil, and electricity, food, and other items, where we communicate with individuals that apply for this regularly. We should have material that is provided to them when we're communicating with them around the Christmas and Thanksgiving holidays around food, and around the winter period around gas, oil, and propane and electricity, of supporting folks that are struggling around their utility costs. So I think we have to identify all those avenues. So flyers, website, social media, the obvious stakeholders in town. I mean, I think I know somebody over the senior centers is probably going to be doing a lot of evangelizing around this, but programs like that.
Yes. And then also,
And I'd also add, I know we've talked about, like, do we want to be identifying contractors in town that may want to do this work? But I also think contractors in town can actually be conduits for this. Like, there are contractors in town, that handymen and others, that are doing work in people's homes, that I think need to also know that this is a program that we have now.
yes. And we need to come up with some marketing materials that says, this is what the Habitat Humanity and what we're supporting, so that people can know, we're not funding ADUs, but,
Well, I would
What-
say, I'd ask Ina if, oh, look at that.
She has
I'm-
something.
Right on time. Right on time.
I was just going to
You
ask, did
asked for it.
Habitat or
You
you
got it,
have some
Yes,
examples?
we
Herman, you
mocked
got
up
it.
some.
You asked for it.
Oh, that's as big as we can go here. Mocked up a couple examples just to get a sense of. I I feel good about making this look like it's coming from the town of Middleton, rather than from Habitat for Humanity. Obviously, it's a partnership, but I think using some of our town colors is nice. So I just wanted to put some of these in front of you all. These are draft. I made them very quickly, and I can clean them up a little bit, but to get a sense of what your initial impressions and feedback are. Let me zoom into the text. So this is, I put some kind of stock images of some of the things that people might want. The text I used was, keep your home safe and comfortable with no-cost repairs through the Critical Home Repair Program. Habitat for Humanity will make repairs at no cost to income-eligible Middleton homeowners. A couple examples, grab bars, roof leaks, and then a very simple, find out if you're eligible, and this is their program website that we would direct people to. So this is about,
So I appreciate everything on that. I know this is a Middleton home repair, but when I look at that, that looks like a Habitat for Humanity program, and folks may not, I would rather have like,
Okay.
Middleton has, Middleton through the Affordable Housing Trust or Middleton taxpayers have funded a program to support Middleton residents with our partner, Habitat for Humanity. Find out more by contacting Middleton's partner, Habitat for Humanity at. And it's not that I'm looking for a pat on the shoulder. I actually think folks will look at this and realize, oh, this is my town that's doing this, not like this group from somewhere else has this great program that I have to jump through 30 hoops. Somewhere of like, the Middleton Home Repair Program was developed and funded by Middleton.
okay. I can definitely make that clearer. I
Yeah.
feel like,
Exactly, you're developed
one-
and funded by the town of Middleton
Yeah.
through, in partnership with Habitat for Humanity.
And then that website is super long. You might want a QR code. People
Yeah.
to put on their phone.
that's a great point.
I looked at it and I was like, I'm gonna have to chicken peck my keyboard.
I'd also, maybe an opportunity to just have a link to our Affordable Housing Trust website.
Yes.
Now, on there, we'll have links to this and other stuff, but also, for more information on this program, you can contact Habitat for Humanity directly, or more information about the Affordable Housing Trust and programs to support the town of Middleton, click on here.
That's what they had in North Andover at the bottom of theirs.
Yeah.
Okay,
That and,
perfect.
In partnership with, like Jason
Yeah.
just said, this is the North Andover one.
All right. I can make those.
Perfect.
Yeah, I can definitely make those updates.
Yeah, I feel like the pictures are too big.
And then we want to put something obviously on Middleton's Real Talk. It used to be Middleton Community Page, now it's like Middleton Real Talk. We could
It's not
put-
real talk that's happening on that page
Oh.
anymore.
No, yeah, I
that's-
would leave that page right alone.
Yeah, that page is pretty toxic.
Yeah, I would leave that page right alone.
Yeah, definitely.
And then,
I think it'll be removed, so.
there, I worked on a contractor list. I reached out to the Council on Aging, and they have people they recommend. They're not sort of approved, but they have a list in case, seniors want to have repairs done. So I'm thinking whether we can share that list with Habitat for Humanity.
I think we share that with Habitat with Humanity. I think what we also do is we communicate with any of those contractors, builders. Now, of course, they have to be licensed, they have to
Sure.
be, home improvement contractor and all of that. Permits have to be pulled here.
With, yeah, have to be
If
within good,
it's- if
have to
it's-
be within good standing with the town, because there's a lot of people that try to pull permits that the town goes, nope.
Yeah, I'll also state, like, some of these projects' permits are gonna have to be pulled. So I would say we also use that list to, as I said earlier, to educate on the program. So, Joe's Home Repair, here's a program, if you have a customer or potential customer in Middleton that, you've given them an estimate to do some work, they can't afford it, but this is a big issue, you should inform them about this program.
Correct.
I think that also, a lot of that would probably, if, somebody gets recommended through this program, a contract or something like that, I mean, in my eyes, I was a contractor for quite a few years. I'd be like, all right, well, I priced it out for $9,000, you know what? I'll do it for 6, something like that. That might give somebody, an incentive, go, all right, well, they're in a hardship, help out, and, it put you in good graces with the town and Habitat, and you might get another job that makes up the difference or something like that.
Goodwill.
Yep, absolutely.
Goodwill begets goodwill.
Yes,
So the flyers need to be printed and then distributed to different groups so that they have them on hand.
So why don't we plan on, at our next meeting, if you have drafts of these, send them out to everybody so we can ingest them before the next meeting. At our next meeting, let's sign off on these, sign off on some educational components that will include like an opportunity for a couple of us to visit the senior center and speak, another inclusion into their newsletter. We'll work with the town administrator who has done a great job in promoting things in the town's Facebook page. And then, I'd also, once we start doing that, I'd recommend all of us, if you are in social media, to amplify this on your own in ways. And then, when you're talking with Habitat, if there's other things that they've seen on ways to promote this that they think would make sense, that they may see in like the North Andover program or something, let us know. But I think, so website, social media, contractors, council on aging, library, veterans agent, schools, individuals we know that are receiving information, support through our other programs in town.
What about a public forum, Brian,
I-
like at the library?
We can do a public forum at the
Special
library.
town meeting this fall?
We are not going to have a special town meeting this fall, so.
The library would be great, like in the room downstairs.
Yeah, I would say we
like
can do,
public-
we can do a public session on that. I'd
Yeah.
also state,
It's a great place.
here's a perfect example. There's going to be a 40B hearing coming up, a public information session.
That'll draw.
There will be folks there. There'll be a lot of talk about affordable housing. Here's an opportunity to have some flyers there, have some flyers at the library, have some flyers.
On the board.
And then if we're not seeing any movement on communication, and that is like moving the needle, maybe we talk to Meld about seeing, I don't know how many people actually get hard copy bills anymore, I don't.
do.
I do.
Maybe,
I do.
maybe there's a way that
Old school.
And include
we
it.
can get a insert. They've been
Yes.
good about that in the past. Or maybe there's things that we provide to the 2 elementary schools to go home with students.
Also, the signage out in front of the library, you can put something up there on the electronic board.
What about the building department?
Oh, yeah, there should be,
The building
I actually
department.
think we should put some information down at the building department and maybe like a little, in addition to a flyer, just some information. Actually, I think we should probably have it on our website, a little Q&A of what does this program mean? Like, how does it work? Like, what does it fund? What does it not fund? Like, I want to put new carpet and paint my living room. That's not what this funds. I need grab bars and a ramp to get into my home. That's what this funds.
Like an example.
My windows need to be replaced because I can't open 3 of them anymore.
Apart from doing the webpage, would it make sense to do a video of somebody talking? I'm not advising that I do it, but I'm just saying, maybe somebody from the Affordable Housing Trust saying, this is why this program was created, and Brian, I think you're a very good speaker.
Maybe we can talk to our
A
great
video.
manager of our public access television can help us with a video that, Justin does these all the time, going into budget session, that goes out on social media. So we've done surveys as a town that different board members have provided an opening statement before the study was done. Actually, I did one for the Affordable Housing Trust before MAPC did their study. So any and all, I just think any opportunity, I think most of our opportunities from this are going to come from the Council on Aging, Veteran Services, and groups like that, but let's not leave any stone unturned. So next meeting, let's kind of sign off on the flyer. Let's give some thoughts at the next meeting of finalizing a Q&A. And then a strategy to roll this out. So if we sign this with Habitat, when do we think we could flip the switch?
I think it's actually reasonable to launch in September after we meet. Yeah, if we meet and finalize and everyone is comfortable with the materials, I'll have drafts and I'll have them like in a mostly final place.
Okay.
I think that's reasonable, and I also think that's good timing. I think it would be really good to get it off the ground before the winter.
Yep, I agree as well. Okay. Okay, treasurer's update.
This will be my final report for FY '25.
Oh, I thought you meant final report. We just reappointed you.
So this is through the end of June numbers. So we started off the year with $210,247. We had budgeted, and we did receive monies from the Community Preservation Committee of $80,000. We had budgeted interest income of $14,700. We actually received $16,400 of interest income. We did budget for some expenses such as recording secretary training we did not utilize. So our ending cash balance came to about $3,000 above what we had budgeted to $306,666. At our next meeting, I'll have a first pass of the FY '26 monthly budget.
Okay. Okay, good. Any other items for future agenda that folks would like to see? Actually, before I get to that, I've mentioned it a couple of times. So, as folks have heard, a second 40B project has been proposed for over in the Ferncroft area, where there is a commercial building with a parking garage. The current owner of the property has proposed and has filed with the state 2 buildings encompassing 200 units that would be attached to the parking garage with additional parking that would be as part of that building. They're proposed to be a 5-story building, each of them. If anybody's familiar with the site, that's a very difficult site. It's very contoured. So street level, it won't look like 5 because some of the floors will actually be, for lack of a better term, below grade where the grade goes down. They've had an initial discussion with the town. The attorney that is representing the owner that is looking to develop is actually the same attorney that has represented the 40B at Angelica's. Like I said, they have filed late last week. We have not received official word from the state, but we're probably going to receive it in the next week or so, which will start the clock process. There is going to be some community forums on this. We have recommended strongly with the proposed developer to follow the model of the previous 40B of having a community discussion. We're going to have one. We welcome them to be a part of it. I will say, the name offhand, I can't remember.
Sovereign Partners.
Who is it?
It's Sovereign Partners is the
Sovereign?
Sovereign Partners.
Sovereign Partners. So if you go to the town's website, right now it's connected to the ZBA page, but later this week it should be accessible through the homepage, is what we know to date, including some draft renderings of the 200 units as a 40B. The bulk will be 1-bedroom. Some will be 2-bedroom, and a very small number will be 3-bedroom because of the requirements of the state for 40B. There has to be a mix of units, including a 3-bedroom, but the bulk will be 1-bedroom, some 2, and a very small number 3. But because as a 40B, and these will be rentals, even the non-affordable units will be counted as affordable. So there is an anticipation, as what we have seen between the project that's been proposed at Angelica's and this project, would bring Middleton to its 10% requirement. Very early in the process, one of the things that's contingent upon this is this project to be able to be connected to the South Essex Sewerage District. If it's not able to be connected to South Essex Sewerage District, we're probably not going to be talking about this. I would expect it could not continue. 200 units is the starting point. You remember what Angelica started at?
200.
And where it is now.
60.
Yep.
Which hasn't happened either.
So I think There's a lot more to come on this. I think our board can watch this closely. I think our board will probably be a part of the public conversation on this.
Is it that he can't connect right into that Essex because of?
So
How does that work?
the South Essex Sewerage District has stated that they're at capacity.
Oh.
At least that's what they've been saying for some time. Now, if they needed to connect, I don't know if they would actually have to provide some type of resources to upgrade capacity, or I don't
If they're
know.
at capacity, they would, you would think.
Yeah,
right?
so, that's in the hands of the developer and their attorneys and their designers and the rest. But I would expect if it's a septic process, it's not gonna happen. No, not that many
And
units. And
Angelica's
again, the
is on
top, the
hold.
topographical of that project would be very difficult for that as well.
And Angelica's still on hold.
As we have told, they're still in process. There's nothing that's led us to believe that it's not happening. I believe the last discussion that the town administrator has had with the developer is he's finalizing his financing and is on track for potential groundbreaking, I think, in late '26.
So you might have his retail person.
I don't know, like, as much as we'd like to know that, he doesn't have a requirement to inform us.
No, of course
Yeah.
not, but sometimes they tell you.
Okay.
He solidified
He
it
said
or
he's
not.
still on track
On
for that,
track.
yeah. So,
It's tough without the drive-through
yep,
in
so
today's world.
that's where we are on that, because I know folks have been hearing more about that. So pay attention to the website. It is a standing agenda on every select board meeting. I will say, going forward, we have talked about doing a joint meeting between this board and the select board in a not-too-distant future to talk about this and other affordability items, so that'll be coming as well.
Good.
So, again, if anybody has any things for the item, for the agenda, just let us know beforehand. If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I
have one
Oh,
thing
sure.
to bring up. Community conservation, I forget what the CPC really stands for.
Community Preservation Committee.
Thank you. The last time we spoke, I think about 3 or 4 months ago, there was an open question about did we apply for numbers for next year?
So technically, we did not, and part of that was because we did not have plans in place yet to expend dollars that we had. And I think there was kind of a thought of, kind of hard to ask for additional money at town meeting if we didn't have plans for it. We
Sure.
have actions in place. I fully expect going into Maytown meeting, we're going to be making the full request that we've made in the past of at least 80. I would say if we go into the Maytown meeting and we actually see a home repair program that is very robust, I think this committee should have an honest conversation with the town and groups like the Finance Committee and the Select Board of, is there a funding source beyond the CPC if there is significant support and need for the home repair program? If we're gonna do something beyond that, something bigger around development, I think there's a discussion that we'll also have to bring to a future town meeting.
And
But
I
again,
sort of indicated
Yeah.
$50,000
Yeah.
at least.
and remember, we got a seed capital originally from the CPC with some surplus affordable housing designated dollars that they've had, that they had been surplusing. I'd also state, when we are gonna have kind of a joint discussion with the select board, part of that is, and I saw this in the last meeting, at least it was in the minutes, so we are, as a board, trying to determine what we wanna do with some of our surplus properties, and more specifically, Memorial Hall. My board has not made a final determination. We're gonna have another discussion of this, both as a board, but I think community discussion. There seems to be a lot of want and interest around something affordable in that site. More of the discussion is what happens with the current building. Is the facade kept? Is the building kept? Is it moved back? My board is now looking at determining the septic capabilities there and future septic abilities on that site, while keeping the green space in the bandstand, in the recreational soccer fields that are there. And as a town, do we partner with somebody to turn that into affordable? My board doesn't want to have that conversation in a vacuum. There's going to be a public discussion around it, but I also think the rationale for a joint meeting with this board, because I think this is a perfect opportunity where the Affordable Housing Trust, the town of Middleton, and potentially a developer. Who that would be, not-for-profit, for-profit, I don't know. We'll cross that bridge at some point. We're also looking for the same thing up on Locust Street of possibly issuing an RFI. That would be maybe both properties together. That would make it more attractive. Like if you're going to do something over in Locust Street where we've been given permission to sell, you also have to partner with something affordable over here.
Because that's a nice gem up there on
Yes, and so to what we were saying earlier of carrot and stick.
Correct.
So, so I think that's likely going to come this fall of a discussion between these two boards together.
Good options. to have.
Yeah, no, it is good
to
options,
have.
and we are moving aggressively towards what we're going to do with our surplus buildings, because there's a cost to keep, there's a cost to mothball, and like when we close Memorial Hall, we don't like shut the water off and shut the lights off. That building needs to stay heated and operational. So, okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And we stand adjourned.
Thank